Let us see some more MCQs on body fluids and circulation. First question, the hepatic portal vein drains blood to liver from options are stomach, kidneys, intestine and heart. The answer is the intestine more than stomach. We have mentioned this way because if only one option you have to select, you have to select the better of the among the all. So the answer will be intestine, but it actually drains from the stomach all the digestive involved organs in the stomach, abdomen mainly, like the pancreas, the stomach, the intestine. From everywhere the blood is carried by through the hepatic portal vein to the liver, but the based on the main purpose, it is mainly to absorb the nutrients and remove the toxins. So from the intestine only majority of the absorbed part nutrients from the digestive tract comes, and hence we are answering it as intestine. If both are given, then we should select the intestine as well as the stomach. So if we let us first understand what is meant by portal vein. For this we should know what is meant by usual circulation, that is the regular circulation in the body. If we see the regular circulation in the body, we can see that from the left side of the heart, the major artery, that is the aorta arises. It divides into further branches till it becomes the arterioles, and then into the capillaries, and then it supplies the tissues. Then again from the capillaries, after supplying, the veins, smaller venules arise, and then they all join together to form the larger veins, and it finally ends up into the vena cava that actually drains into the right side of the heart. The difference we will see with the portal circulation. For portal circulation, what happens is there will be an additional supply of blood here. See, uh, from the heart, left side of the heart, the aorta arise, further branching into arterioles and then capillaries, and then it will be supplying the tissues once. After that, the venules should form from the capillaries and join to form the larger veins. After the larger veins form, they should actually end up into the vena cava and drain into the right side of the heart. This is the usual circulation. But instead of going and draining into the right side of the heart, what happens is these veins again divide into smaller branches called the venules, and they drain the blood into some cavities, body cavities within the organ called the sinusoids. The organ is the liver. From there again smaller venules arise, and then that will drain into the they will form the larger joint to form the larger vein, and finally drain into the heart, right side of the heart. So the tissues are supplied second time. The blood is supplied second time before entering the heart. So this part of the circulation, the vein on both sides the veins are present. This part of the circulation is called the portal circulation. The portal circulation in human beings is also present in the hypophyseal system that extends between the hypophysis and the anterior pituitary. Hypophyseal portal system is extending there. The advantage of the portal circulation is that with a localized transport of some important things can be achieved with that, without a need for a separate pipeline. So here if we see what is the need for the hepatic portal vein is that the hepatic portal vein, as we can see in this larger diagram, we can see that, see first the aorta is there. See, it is supplying the digestive organs and also the liver through the hepatic artery. But other than the hepatic artery, we have the blood being drained from the stomach, the spleen, the pancreas, the small intestine, as well as the large intestine through the portal vein into the sinusoids in the liver, that again join to form the smaller veins, and then when a small join to form the inferior vena cava. This is called the hepatic vein. So this is the usual circulation, the hepatic artery, and then entering the tissue, supplying the liver, and then entering into the vein is the normal or the usual way of circulation. This part is called the portal circulation, where from the veins again the vein is formed. Again the vein is formed. So if we see here, so if all these organs are given, hepatic portal vein drains blood from blood to liver from stomach, spleen, pancreas, small intestine as well as the large intestine. We have to mark that answer. So the advantage of this system is that the food as it passes and being broken down as it goes through all the small intestine and the large intestine, there will be so much of exchange of the nutrients as well as waste products, or whatever is being absorbed from the stomach will be entering into the veins here. We know that liver is one of the major organ that stores up excess of the nutrients, and also the one which is the major organ that eliminates the toxins from the blood. So before entering into the main systemic circulation, if all this blood enters into the liver will be filtering out and removing all the toxins, so that the tissues or our body will not be exposed to those toxins and get affected. Also the excess nutrients will be absorbed and saved, and or if cannot be saved, they will be further broken down into smaller metabolites and will be sent for systemic circulation. So it may be excreted through the kidney. So the second question is, in mammals, which blood vessel would normally carry largest amount of urea? So the answer is based on which organ is actually producing the urea. So which organ produces urea is the liver. So these two things are ruled out. The dorsal aorta and the renal vein are ruled out. Dorsal aorta is actually the embryological part of the descending aorta that is supplying to the abdominal organs. This will not be the answer. Renal vein is actually related to the kidney, hence renal means kidney. So this cannot be the answer. So among these two, we have to decide which is the one that carries the urea. Urea is actually produced in the liver. So whichever among these two, which vein is actually arising from the liver? It is actually the hepatic vein. Hence it will be carrying the urea. Hepatic portal vein is entering into the liver. So that cannot be the answer. For confusion, they have given this. So as we have already seen, the hepatic artery carries the oxygenated blood to the liver. It is the supply is only about 25% of blood to the liver. The hepatic vein actually carries the blood from the liver to the heart. So from the liver it will be draining. The urea is actually the byproduct or the final end product of the protein, broken down protein protein. It is a whichever is not necessary but we have consumed, like the excess proteins will be converted into urea, and this will be eliminated through the urine through the kidneys. As we already seen, the hepatic portal vein is the connection between the capillaries of the digestive tract and the spleen with the liver by the vein before returning to the heart. So this will help in removing the nutrients from the food as well as remove toxins before it enters the systemic circulation. This is the main purpose why the portal circulation is there. The next question is, the most active phagocytic white blood cells are. Phagocytosis is engulfing or swallowing of the foreign bodies or toxins. So which one is doing that more actively or faster and more effective? So among these cells, the answer is the neutrophils and the monocytes. Because neutrophil is the first line of defense in our body. Actually, when whatever type of injury or infection or whatever even a foreign body comes, the first person to stand in front and attack is the neutrophils, and else with this itself you can eliminate the first and the fourth answer. Among these two, if you see, the monocyte is also a phagocytic cell. It remains in the blood longer, and it acts a bit later than the neutrophils. Eosinophils are mainly concerned with the attacking the parasites as well as the related to allergies. See, these are the diagrams of the different types of cells. The first group forms the granulocytes, the neutrophils, eosinophils and basophils. They are called granulocytes because they have numerous granules within the cytoplasm. Here they must have marked the granules that they are missing here. The lymphocytes, monocytes and macrophages form the granulocytes. Let us see in short the other functions of the rest of WBCs. As we have seen, neutrophil is the first line of defense, and it produces it is act against all the foreign bodies, microorganisms, or any kind of injury. It will be the first one to come out and act. First line of defense cell. The eosinophil is actually concerned with the parasitic organisms like roundworm infection, like that. So when all these are there, the eosinophils in the blood will be more. They will, and also it is related to allergic reactions. Whenever we have some allergy to any food or something like that, this will be more. Then comes the basophils. The basophils are actually involved in similar to that, it is involved in allergy but not the parasitic infection. They release histamine as well as another molecule called heparin, the anticoagulant from a blood cell is that is from the basophil. Then comes the lymphocyte. The lymphocytes are actually the two types, T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes, and these are mainly involved in formation of antibodies. Then the monocytes. Monocytes are also the phagocytic cells, and they will come a little bit later than the neutrophils. Then comes the macrophages. This will come when the foreign body or the infectious agent to be engulfed or swallowed and killed is actually very much larger than the for the neutrophil to kill or to swallow. So those sites we will have the macrophages, and in the areas of the body wherever there is communication with the external environment, like the lungs, in the alveolus, the modified forms of tissue macrophages will be present, like the Kupffer cells in the liver. So the trick to remember this most active white blood cell is the nu, like it is not that it is phagocytosed, we can remember that way. So nu for neutrophils and mon for monocytes. The next question is, name the blood cells whose reduction in number can cause clotting disorder leading to excessive loss of blood from the body. The options are erythrocytes, which are RBCs, leukocytes, which are WBCs, neutrophils, which is a type of the leukocytes or the WBCs, and thrombocytes. Thrombocytes are actually the platelets. So this is the answer is the platelets. See, this is a histological picture of the blood smear. The small blue color dots are the platelets. Actually, platelets are the breakdown products of the cell megakaryocytes. They are not complete cells. The pink ones you can see are the red blood cells, and in between you can see some of the white blood cells also. Next is erythropoiesis starts in. Erythropoiesis is production of erythrocytes. Poiesis is production. So RBCs are produced in the red bone marrow. Within the bone there is a soft tissue called the marrow, red bone marrow. As we age, be replaced by fat tissue, and the production of RBCs will actually reduce in the some areas of the bones. Sixth one, which one of the following is correct? They are asking whether lymph is equal to plasma plus RBC and WBC, or blood is equal to plasma plus RBC or WBC and platelets together, or plasma is equal to blood minus lymphocytes and serum is equal to blood plus fibrinogen. The answer is blood is equal to plasma plus RBC plus WBC plus the platelets, because blood is the composition of the fluid component called the plasma, and the cell component are called the red blood cells, WBCs and the platelets. So what is lymph? Lymph is the blood minus RBCs will not be there, and a few proteins will not be there in the lymph. So here they have mentioned the presence of RBC here, hence it cannot be the answer. The second one is plasma. If you see the plasma, it contains the blood, but all the cells will not be there. Not only lymphocytes, all the cells will not be there. The RBC, WBC and platelets, everything will not be there in plasma. Next is the serum. What is serum? Serum is plasma minus the fibrinogen. Serum will not have any blood cells. See, blood, if they mention, it refers to even the cells, but serum will not contain any cells, and hence the answer is wrong. So it is plasma minus the fibrinogen. See the blood red in color. The lymph, which is colorless because red blood cells are not there. Other cells are also not there. That is the WBCs and platelets are also not there. And then the serum. Serum, if we have to know what it is actually the small amount of clear colorless fluid that usually oozes out of a healing wound. Whenever you have a small wound, that a little colorless fluid will actually ooze out. This is called the serum. This will never clot. But if you compare the blood and lymph, they both have clotting factors. Blood will clot soon, whereas lymph will clot later, because RBCs are also involved, but platelets are also involved. Here, because of the absence of formed elements, but clotting factors are present, it will clot a little bit slower, but serum will never clot. Another information you can know is spleen is the largest lymphatic organ in the humans. Seventh one is serum differs from blood in. We have already seen what is it lacking. The answer is it lacks all the clotting factors. See, the albumin and globulins are all the plasma proteins. This will be present in the blood. Antibodies are also protein. Under this group only globulin will all come, immunoglobulins. So they will all be present in the serum. Which one of the following human organs is often called the graveyard of RBCs? Graveyard means the deathbed, or where they die. Where the RBCs die, it usually dies in the spleen, as well as the options are gallbladder, kidney, spleen and liver. The answer is the spleen. It actually dies in the liver also, but the name graveyard is given only to the spleen, and hence we have to mention the answer as spleen. See, where is the location of spleen? It is present like a cap above the stomach, upper part of the stomach. The spleen is present. Ninth one, which one of the following plasma proteins is involved in the coagulation of blood? Coagulation is the clotting. Which one is involved in clotting? That is the fibrinogen. The options are albumin, serum amylase, globulin and fibrinogen. The answer is the fibrinogen. So if you can see the fibers here, actually fibrinogen is converted to fibrin by the enzyme thrombin, and it then further becomes a stable form, and it is being entangled. It entangles all the RBCs. These red ones are the RBCs, and they together form a block at the site of bleeding. This is scanning electron microscopic view of the blood. when clotting. If you see the albumin, it is a plasma protein, and it is actually a carrier of many of the vitamins, hormones, etc. in blood. If we see globulin, they are actually the immunoglobulins usually, and they are related to the immune reactions. Serum amylase, it is usually not more. Actually, amylase is the enzyme that we know is helpful in digesting the carbohydrates. Hence, it will be produced in the salivary glands as well as the pancreas. Whenever there is some problem in the pancreas, the serum amylase level will be high. The next question is 10th, fastest distribution of some injectable material or medicine and with no risk of any kind can be achieved by injecting it into the options are muscles, arteries, veins and lymph vessels. The answer is the veins. If we have to reason out, see if we consider this as an area of the arm, the bone is usually present in the center. Adjacent to the bone will run the arteries, then there will be the muscle layer and then the vein. Between the artery and the vein, there will be a network formed by the lymph vessel. See here, the same is represented in this histological line diagram. So this is the artery and the vein. In between, the lymph is also growing, the moving to remove the collect the whichever molecules are not carried in the vein will be carried to the lymphatic vessel and finally drained into a larger vein. So here, if we see the reason, if you are going to inject into the artery is at a deeper level. So, and if we are going to inject into the muscles, if it will be causing more pain also. The lymph, if you see lymph vessel, it is also deeper to the vein, and if you compare the lumen size, the lumen of the vein is actually larger than the artery, and because it is at the more superficial level, it is very easy to inject any drug into the vein, and hence and it also enters into the systemic circulation directly. Hence, this is the reason why the action will also be faster. Eleventh one is the hemoglobin content per 100 ml of blood of a normal healthy human adult is. The options are 5 to 11 milligram, 25 to 30 milligram, 17 to 20 milligram, 12 to 16 milligram. Actually, this is from previous year question papers, but actually if we see the hemoglobin, it is not in milligrams, it is in grams per deciliter. The answer is actually 12 to 16 grams per deciliter. The importance of the level of hemoglobin is that as the level of hemoglobin rises, you can see the darkness of the blood actually rises. Based on this, they will actually find it easy to find with the color comparison meter called the colorimeter to find the level of hemoglobin in the blood, which actually indicates the amount of RBCs, which actually indicates the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, which actually indicates the activity, the how much active the person will be, whether he will be more active or he will be more tired, feel more tired. So this is the normal hemoglobin level. The color will be like that. For anemia, it will be more pale, and in some people the RBCs are more, and this condition pathology is called the polycythemia. Next question is 12th one. There is no DNA in. Options are mature RBCs, mature spermatozoon, a hair root, and then a nucleated ovum. So they are not asking about the nucleus, they are actually asking about the DNA. We have to note this. We know that a spermatozoon as well as a ovum, that is a male sperm cell, as well as the female gamete, male and the female gamete have the DNA, then only they can actually form the zygote. The hair root is also containing the DNA. The answer will be the mature RBCs. Actually, before they mature, they will have the DNA. See, this is a picture of RBC. You can see how it is compressed or forming a concavity in the center on both sides, up as well as down. This is a histological picture. You can see because of the concavity formed, you can see that area does not get stained and appears white in the case of the red blood cells. If you want to know what is the advantage of this will help in reducing the size of the RBC so that it can pass through very small capillaries to supply the oxygen to the tissues. The other reason is it can if the oxygen exchange actually presence occurs through the central region of the red blood cell. If the walls are too close together, the exchange will be more easier and faster. So there is no DNA in a mature RBC. By the time it matures, the RBCs will lose the DNA material. The next question is 13. Which type of white blood cells are concerned with the release of histamine and the natural anticoagulant heparin? So we have already revised which blood cell is having releasing this, the histamine, the heparin. It is the basophils. See here, it is the basophil which does this. In the tissues, we have similar cell called the mast cell that releases histamine and heparin. We can know this too. 14th is, which one of the animal has two separate circulatory pathways? To answer this, we should know what is meant by circulatory pathway, and then two separate means a double circulation. The answer for this is actually, the options are whale, shark, frog and lizard. The answer is whale. We have to categorize it based on which group of animal it is. A whale is a mammal, a shark is a fish, a frog is an amphibian, a lizard is a reptile. So we have to arrange this in order of evolution to find this. Fish is formed first, then comes the amphibian, then comes the reptile, then the avians were formed, and then the mammals came. This double separate circulation is actually present in the highest order of the organism, that is the mammal. Since whale is a mammal, we have this as the answer. Let us see what is the circulation. Discuss slide on it. See, there are different types of circulation. Are two types. They are the open and the closed type. Open means the tissues are actually embedded within the blood. They are surrounded by the blood. Whereas in the closed circulation, the tissues are not directly surrounded by the blood. Instead, there is another fluid that exchanges the nutrients between the blood and the cells. That fluid is called as the interstitial fluid. This fluid is not present in a open system. So the open system is the earliest form of circulation. It is present in the invertebrates, the ones which don't have the vertebral column. So if we imagine this as the heart, we can see a small large tube coming out, which will be supplying like an artery into the tissues. The blood is actually drained just like that, an open pipe into the tissues. From there, the blood is actually, here we should not call this as blood, we should call it as hemolymph, and the vessel should be called as hemocoel. So it is just poured everywhere into the tissues. So this hemolymph will be directly contacting the tissues, and oxygen is not carried by cells, it is carried by some pigments within the blood. From there, the cells will absorb all the nutrients and excrete. Then again, near the heart, another vessel will arise that will drain into the heart. In between, there is a larger area where the tissues are bathed by the hemolymph. Hemocoel is the vessel that carries the hemolymph. Next, the closed circulation, if we see, it is of 4 types. The first type is the single circulation. Second is incomplete double. 2 types are there, and then the fourth one is the complete double circulation. In single circulation, if we see, imagine this as the heart. Heart is divided into 2 chambers, the upper atrium and the lower ventricle. This type of circulation is present in mainly the fishes. Let us see why it is called a single circulation. See, from the ventricle, the vessels arise and they will enter the gills, capillaries, where the oxygenation of the blood occurs, and then again they form larger arteries, and they will finally supply the tissues, and they will end up into the, through the vein they will end up into the heart. So here if we see, only one loop of circulation is there, and hence this is called a single circulation. In incomplete double circulation, let us see how it happens. The heart is divided into 3 chambers. One is the atria, 2 atria, and only 1 ventricle is present. This type is present in amphibians. From the ventricle, the arteries will arise, supply the tissues through the capillaries, and then from there the veins will arise and they will end up into the heart, the right atrium. Again, from the ventricles, another group of vessels like the pulmonary artery, like that, it will arise and it will enter the lungs, where the blood gets oxygenated, and then that will drain into the left atrium. So here we can see that there is one loop here supplying all the tissues, called the systemic circulation. The another loop is the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary means the one which supplies the lungs. So this is the pulmonary circulation. Hence this is called double circulation. But this both the blood gets mixed here. See, here the artery is arising, which is going to supply the tissues. Also the vein that is going to for oxygenation to the lungs gets mixed here, because there is only one ventricle, and hence this is called incomplete and double circulation, that is the systemic and the pulmonary circulation. Whereas here the oxygenation is occurring and then it does not join the heart here. It is again forming the capillaries. Then the third type, incomplete double circulation, wherein you see the chambers, left atrium and right atrium are separated. The ventricles are separated but not completely separated. There is small hole in between, or a gap in between. Actually this is evolving, no? So we are finding like this. So partial wall chamber is formed. These are found in reptiles except the crocodiles. So again here the larger arteries arise, the branch form capillaries to supply the tissues, the systemic capillaries, and then they join and form the venules, forming larger vein draining into the right atrium. From the right ventricle again artery will arise that will enter the lungs, get oxygenated and drain into the left atrium. Again this is a pulmonary circulation. So 2 loops are formed, and hence this is double circulation. It is incomplete because the ventricles are not divided completely. Next one is the complete double circulation. See, this is present in humans and as well as the birds, avian means birds, and then all the mammals including humans. So in the heart we have 4 completely divided chambers, right atrium, left ventricle and right ventricle. Here the blood does not get mixed just like that. The valve is present to allow each one, but it is decided completely by the valves. Here we already know the artery aorta arises, and then the capillaries form, supplying the tissues in the body. From there the veins arise, forming larger vein draining it through the vena cava, and then from the into the right atrium. From the right ventricle the pulmonary artery arises that enters the lungs, gets oxygenated, and then drains into the left atrium. So here again, this is the pulmonary circulation. Two loops of circulation are formed, and hence this is double circulation, and the chambers, heart chambers, are completely divided, and hence they are called the complete double circulation. So this is a process of evolution towards this. Let us see the advantages of why a closed circulation is needed. See, in the closed circulation, the blood vessels carry the blood through capillaries, and as I said, the exchange is occurring between the capillaries and the interstitial fluid, and then with the interstitial fluid and the cells. Whereas in the invertebrate open circulation, it is occurring through the between the hemolymph and the hemolymph, which is the name of the blood that is present in an invertebrate, and the tissues directly without any interstitial fluid. So there will be no direct contact of the blood with the tissues here. Oxygen is carried within a cell called the RBCs, as well as in the diffused form in plasma. The main advantage of this system is it is more efficient and fast to deliver the blood here. So larger tissues can be formed, and larger animals can evolve in this group, because the pumping of blood is not will not be efficient in this system. As the chambers are getting divided, the efficiency of the system will be improved. How much ever pressure with which the blood can be pumped out can be decided more effectively in towards the end here in a complete double circulation. This is like a balloon with a hole. How much ever you are going to pump the air inside, some leak is there, so that will not be much effective, but that is a process of evolution towards the complete separation. Next, let us see here in this picture and find out which type of circulation is there in these animals. See, this is a mollusk. You can see the circulation. See, this is the heart area. From there, through the vessels, hemocoel, the blood is supplied, called the hemolymph, and from the tissues directly they all come and drain into a larger vessel that is just starts near the heart, and hence this is a open type of circulation. It is a mollusk. See, this is an insect, an arthropod. See, here there are heart here, tubular hearts everywhere here. From there the blood is being pumped out, and then they all just diffuse into the tissues and then enter back without a proper pipeline or canal, and hence this is also an open circulation. Whereas see here, this is an earthworm picture. See the blood here, in between we are having the hearts. The blood is pumped out, it is carried throughout, everywhere it is carried through the vessel, and it is actually finally draining out into the heart from the tissues everywhere into the heart, and hence this is a closed type of circulation. So an earthworm has a closed type of circulation. So this is the thing which we have to memorize, because it is asked in most of the time a question comes on this topic. See, open circulation means it is usually seen in most of the invertebrates. So whatever options are given, we first see whether it is an vertebrate or an invertebrate. The closed circulation is seen in all the vertebrates, including an in-between group of invertebrates, which also have closed circulation, the evolving group. So this is the area which will be commonly confusing if they give. Otherwise we can easily differentiate. So the open circulation in the invertebrates, they are the in Urochordates. It is an example is a seaport, and then in the echinoderms are the spiny skinned animals. They are all are present in the saltwater marine animals. Example like the starfishes, and then the mollusks, the shelled animals like the seashells and the snails, and then the arthropods. Arthropods are the pod means the legs, and arthro means a joint. The legs will have joints in them, and they have a segmented body, and they also have an exoskeleton like the insects like butterflies or bees, and then also the crab. They have the jointed legs. They also have the exoskeleton, as well as the prawn or the lobsters. So this thing we have to remember. Urochordate, echinoderms, mollusk and arthropods. The closed circulation, if we see the vertebrates, all the vertebrates have the closed circulation. As we have already seen, the single circulation is seen in the fishes like the shark. Then the incomplete double circulation is seen in amphibians and reptiles except the crocodiles. The amphibians will have the only 2 plus 1 chambers. The reptiles will have 2 plus 2 partial chambers. The complete double circulation is present in the crocodiles, the birds, the avians, and the mammals, including the whale. Usually we always confuse between a shark and a whale because they look like large fishes, but shark is a fish, but whale is a mammal. Mammal is an organism which gives birth to young ones and feeds the milk to it. So the in-between group, this should be separately studied. Though these are all invertebrates, they will have closed circulation. The annelids comes from the word like annular, that is the ring-like, like a ring. So the like a ring, the segments are present. Where in which organism these are present? Like in the earthworms, they have. Now their scientific name is Ferritima. Then it is also present in leeches. Its scientific name is Hirudinaria, and then the cephalochordates. And example is a lancelet, which is whose scientific name is Amphioxus, and then the cephalopods. Usually the octopus and the squids will come under this. So annelids, cephalochordates and cephalopods come under the vertebrates, but with closed circulation. So now let us see how much we remember. What is this? This is an grasshopper. A grasshopper is an insect. It is an arthropod. So an arthropod comes under which one? It is an open circulation. See, these are the footsteps of a human being. Human being is a mammal, highest order in the order of evolution. So he will have complete double circulation. See, this is a snail. A snail is a having a shell also. It is a more. It comes under the mollusk. So mollusk will have which group? It is comes under the open circulation. Again, this is a insect. So an insect is an arthropod and hence comes under open circulation. See, this is a lizard. A lizard is a reptile. Reptiles will come under closed circulation. What type of closed circulation? A reptile will have double circulation, but it is incomplete. These are fishes. Fishes will come under closed circulation because it is also a vertebrate and it is having the gills, single circulation. Example would be the main example is shark. And this is a horse. If we see the horse, it is a mammal and hence it will be having complete double circulation. This is a lobster having exoskeleton. Lobster will come under the group of arthropods and hence it will have open circulation. A small monkey. Monkey is a mammal and hence it will have complete double circulation. This is a frog. Frog is an amphibian. Amphibian will have double circulation, but it will be incomplete double with only 3 chambers. This is a seashell. The seashell is it comes under the mollusk, and hence it will have open circulation. So these all belong to the echinoderm group. The starfish, they are the starfishes. The brittle star, this is called a brittle star. This is a sea lily, this is a sea cucumber, and this is the echinoid. So all these things will come under the echinodermata. Echinodermata has the open circulation. So, yeah, in the previous slide, we have to also concentrate that Urochordate comes under open circulation, but cephalochordates will come under the closed circulation. That will be a confusing area. So based on the previous discussion, let us answer the following question. 15th one, open types of circulation system is in all except. So open, this answer is, it is an, if whether you have to say, check if it is an arthropod. Arthropod is having open type, yes. Mollusk also has a open type. Annelid has a segmented body. This is an invertebrate. We have, and then Urochordate. Urochordate will also come under the open type. It is an example was sea pork. Annelid is a segmented organism, that is Ferritema, which is a common example is Ferritema, that is a earthworm. It is an invertebrate, but it has the open, but it has the closed type of circulation. So it is an invertebrate, it is having the closed type of circulation. The same is described here. The next question, 16th one is, which one of the following has an open circulatory system? See, the octopus comes under cephalopod. Cephalopod is an invertebrate, but it is having a closed circulation. It comes under the exceptional category. Ferritema is an earthworm. It is having the comes under the annelids, and hence it is having the closed type of circulation. Then comes the Periplaneta. Periplaneta is the cockroaches. Cockroaches comes under the arthropod. Arthropod has the open circulation, and hence this is the answer. Let us see what is Hirudinera. It is a leech. It comes under the closed circulation. Next, 17th one. Impulse of heartbeat originates from. Where does the heart beat, the stimulation for heartbeat arises? The options are sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node, vagus nerve, and cardiac nerve. The answer is the sinoatrial node. From here only it actually spreads through. This is the area where the it is created. The heartbeat has to be produced. The electrical impulses are created here, and then it travels to the atrioventricular node, and then the bundle, atrioventricular bundle, the bundle of this, and then branches out as the bundle branches, and then through the Purkinje fibers it is supplied to all the muscles of the heart. This is the area where the sinoatrial node is located, that is in the right atrium. 18th question, rate of heartbeat is determined by. The options are Purkinje fibers, papillary muscles, atrioventricular node, and sinoatrial node. The answer is the sinoatrial node. That is the same area where which is determining the heart rate. That is how many number of beats per second per minute is present is the heart rate. So that is also decided. The impulse is being started from there. Everything is just the same place. The next question, 19th, is bundle of His is a part of which one of the following organs is in humans? The answer is very easy. It is the heart, as we can see here. The next question is 20th, bundle of His is a network of what it is made of? Is it a nerve, a muscle, an artery? The answer is it is actually the muscle fibers, and hence these two options are easily ruled out. We have already seen the diagram where the bundle of His is present. It is present in the ventricle. wall interventricular septum between the two ventricles, the left and right ventricle, and this is the answer. See here, the mandala of is present between the ventricle, the right ventricle and the left ventricle. In between these two only the bundle of his is present. This is actually a muscle. Uh, 21. Blood pressure in the pulmonary artery is. They are asking what about the pulmonary artery. The options are more than that in the pulmonary vein, less than that in the vena cava, same as that in the aorta, or more than that in the carotid. The answer is it is more than that in the pulmonary vein. This can be easily found out because pulmonary artery is arising from the heart, whereas pulmonary vein is going to drain into the heart. So the heart is a organ that is creating the pressure for the blood mainly by contraction, and hence it is very easy to answer this question. If you see the heart, here the left, the four chambers. From the left ventricle the aorta arises, and then it supplies the aorta arises and supplies the systemic the tissues of the body, that is the systemic capillaries are formed, and then the venules arise from there, forming larger veins that will drain finally into the superior and inferior vena cava, that will finally drain into the right atrium. From the right atrium it will drain into the through the valve that is present here, which is the which valve is present here, whether it is a mitral valve or a tricuspid valve. It is the tricuspid valve. We remember based on the trick tri right. So it is the tricuspid valve. From the right ventricle again the vessel arises, which is the pulmonary artery, but it is carrying a deoxygenated blood because the blood does not enter the lungs again now. So the only artery that carries the deoxygenated blood is the pulmonary artery. And then after supplying the getting oxygenated inside the lungs through the pulmonary circulation by dividing into capillaries, again venules join and then they form the larger veins. 4 pulmonary veins will form and they will drain into the left atrium. So the only veins, group of veins that will carry the oxygenated blood will be the pulmonary veins. From them through the bicuspid or the mitral valve it will drain into the left ventricle. The 22nd question is, blood pressure in the mammalian aorta is maximum during. When it will be maximum? When through whichever is which is supplying to the tissues, which part of the heart is supplying from where the blood vessel arises, that is supplying the tissues, because that needs to travel longer distance. So which one? It is the left atrium, and hence it is easier to find here the systole of the left ventricle. If they had given diastole of the left ventricle, during contraction only the pressure will be more. During relaxation actually the pressure will reduce. So that cannot be the answer. The answer is the systole of the heart. 23rd, the amount of blood pumped out by each ventricle per beat and per minute respectively are. That is amount of blood pumped by each ventricle per beat is what is the thing? It is the heart rate. Per minute it is the amount of blood pumped per beat is actually the stroke volume, and the amount of blood pumped per minute for within a minute is the cardiac output. So stroke volume, let us see what is stroke volume. It is the volume, V for volume of blood pumped out by a ventricle with each beat. Cardiac output, it is the volume of blood pumped out by ventricle in a minute, over a minute time. Both are concerned with the volume of blood. With stroke volume refers with deals with respect to each beat, every beat, like 60 beats are produced in a minute. No? So 60 stroke volumes are created, but in 1 minute only one cardiac output is created. So the cardiac output is how many times the number is the heart is beating, that is the heart rate. So the per minute, so it is the number of beats per minute. So it can easily be found out with the formula cardiac output is equal to heart rate into stroke volume. That is in 1 minute of time how much blood is pumped out of the heart totally. If we want to find, uh, it will almost be the same amount of stroke volume per beat. So into number of beats per minute, which is the heart rate, will give the answer. Stroke volume can be found out based on end diastolic volume minus the systolic volume. The end diastolic volume is the amount of expansion of the heart that is produced at the end of the diastole, and the end systolic volume is the amount of contraction of the heart that is produced at the end of the systole of the heart. So this is the stroke volume. All the amount of the blood that is present within the ventricle will not be pumped out. Little blood may be present, so that cannot be taken up as the stroke volume. The difference between these two only forms the stroke volume. Then comes the pulse pressure. The pulse pressure is the systolic pressure minus the diastolic pressure. Systolic pressure will be greater because during contraction the pressure will be more, and the diastolic pressure will be lesser than that. Next question 24. Difference between pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein is that the pulmonary artery has, the pulmonary artery, all the blood vessels will have an endothelium, so this cannot be the answer. The walls, if we see, both the pulmonary artery has a wall, no artery has wall other than the pulmonary artery and the aorta, but pulmonary vein also has a wall, so this cannot be the answer. Then comes the thicker walls. Yeah, the arteries will have thicker walls than the veins, and then for contractile elements are present within it also to increase the blood pressure. So this will be the answer. The oxygenated blood is given for confusion because it is an artery. We'll write it as oxygenated blood, but pulmonary artery is the only artery that carries the deoxygenated blood. Lumen, if we see, among all the arteries and veins, the arterial lumen is actually comparatively smaller than a venular lumen. Lumen in a vein, and hence this cannot be the answer. The answer is the thicker walls. So if we group the differences, arteries are thick walled and veins are thin walled. Arteries have a narrow lumen, whereas veins will have a wider lumen or larger diameter lumen. Then the oxygenated blood is carried in all the arteries except the pulmonary artery, and then the deoxygenated blood is carried in all the veins except the pulmonary vein. Arteries usually arise, all arteries arise from the heart and end in the capillaries, and the veins arise from the capillaries or tissues and end in the heart. And then valves are not present in any of the arteries except the pulmonary artery, and I missed out here, as well as the aorta valve is present. Then in the veins, all the veins valves are present. 25th question. According to Frank Starling's law, as the venous return increases, what will happen when the venous return increase? The options are: the stroke volume increases, heart rate reduces, stroke volume reduces, and diastolic volume reduces. Actually, based on the options, without having any knowledge, we can usually, when MCQ is asked, the same thing about the same thing if they talk, that will be the answer. One among the two will be the answer. So if we see the stroke volume, as the answer is actually the stroke volume will increase. They are directly proportional. See, what does Frank Starling's law state? It states that the greater the dilatation or the expansion of the ventricles during the diastole, the greater will be the amount of blood pumped per beat, which is the stroke volume. So to easily imagine, we can see here above man here, which is similar to the heart. You can consider it as a left ventricle. So by filling up of blood into it can be compared to stretching of it. So if we fill a balloon with water, what happens? It gets expanded. The ventricular wall or the balloon actually gets stretched. So, or if we blow air, it is getting stretched. The and if we release, what will happen? The air will come out. If you are going to do an exercise, it can be compared to stretching the elastic band at a long distance, or blowing an balloon to a large size. What will happen is the balloon will, if we release the mouth, if close the mouth, what will happen? The balloon will come to the, or it will shrink very faster than when it was blown to a smaller size, because the contractile pressure in the walls of the balloon will be more. Similar to that, in the rubber band also, the contractile force will be larger because of the greater extension, and hence it will sooner and faster come to the rest by contracting. So the contractile force will be more. The more the contractile force, the larger the amount of pressure that we can create, and hence the larger the blood volume that will be pumped out. So in the ventricle also similarly, during the usual physical activities, a little amount of stretching of the left ventricle happens, and that is pumping or helping in the pumping out of blood. But when we are doing heavy exercises, what will happen? A large amount of exercises, the amount the heart will, the amount of blood returning to the heart in the that actually lies in the peripheries, which are served as reserves, will also enter into the heart. So the more the amount of blood that is entering into the heart, what will happen? The larger the dilatation or the expansion of the ventricles. So this will create larger amount of contractile force in the ventricular wall, that will help in increasing the amount of blood pumped out forcibly within a beat, which is the stroke volume. The next question is 26. Which statement is true for a WBC? They are non-nucleated. Options are non-nucleated. In deficiency causes cancer is caused. Manufactured in the thymus, can squeeze through the blood capillaries. If you see, the WBCs have nucleus, so this cannot be the answer. Deficiency will never result in a cancer, and will not result in a cancer, so that cannot be the answer. It is manufactured in the thymus. It is not manufactured in the thymus. The lymphocytes group of WBCs alone undergo maturation or final differentiation in the thymus. So this cannot be the answer. This is given to confuse. The answer is they can squeeze through the blood capillaries. Yes, they can squeeze through the blood capillaries, so that they can actually enter into the tissues. If we get an foreign body or infectious agent entering into the skin, into the tissues, there will be some amount signal sent from that into the blood. So based on the signal obtained, the WBCs will actually come out of the capillary to attack the invader in the tissues. Usually WBCs will not be present in the tissues, but at times of need they come out. See here, the WBC, this is actually a neutrophil. It is rolling out, and then this is margination, rolling out, and then they will diaphysis, they will come out by creating a small gap between the endothelial cells, which are the lining of the blood vessel. This is a blood vessel, and enter into the tissue space. The RBCs will not enter into the, come in contact into the tissues. When the RBCs actually contact the extra endovascular region, they will result in helping clotting. So we don't need the clotting. So the gap should be as narrow as possible, so that the RBCs cannot enter. The RBCs are actually smaller than WBC, but even then this WBC alone should enter, but RBC should not enter. So think how much small the gap will be formed, and how much narrow by squeezing, how much of squeezing the WBC has to make to come out of the vessel. This is one of nature's admiration. You can imagine. See here, the green color capsule like thing is the infectious agent or the foreign body. It is actually now engulfing in the end. So the WBCs are actually can squeeze out through the blood capillaries at times of need when there is an invader. Next question is 27. Which is the principal cation in the plasma of blood? Options are potassium, magnesium, calcium and sodium. The answer is the sodium. In blood, sodium ion is actually high, whereas in the tissues, the potassium within the cells intracellularly, if they ask, the answer is the potassium. The potassium ion is more. Based on the difference between these two itself, there are many signaling as well as conduction of cells happen at the nerve muscle junction. Many activities happen. So the trick to remember is blood. Have you licked the blood? The blood when it oozes out in childhood, it will taste actually salty. So this could be used as the mnemonic to remember. So B for blood, it tastes salty. S for sodium ion. Actually, potassium ion will also taste salty, but not as much as the sodium ion. So B for blood and S for sodium. So the principal cation in the plasma of blood is sodium, whereas within the cells it is the potassium ion. 28th question. The blood group with antibody A and antibody B is. The options are blood group O, blood group B, blood group A or blood group AB. The answer is which one is not having the antigen actually. The answer is blood group. So if we see the blood group type I have described here within the RBCs here. See AB type of person and O group type of person. So if we see the antigens in the RBC, they will have A group will have, B group will have the antigens, its own corresponding antigens called the antigens A, and they will have antibodies towards the B group type in the plasma. So what will the B group will have? They will have antigens of the B group, and in the plasma they will have antibodies for the A group. If the blood type is AB, they will have the antigens for both A as well as the antigens for AB. So they will have no antibodies in their blood, and hence they because there is no antibodies in blood, what will happen? They can easily receive blood from any of the 4 blood groups AB or O at times of urgent need. So they are called, otherwise called the universal recipients. Whereas in the O blood group or 0, we can say there will be no antigen on the surface of red blood cells. So they will have they are the universal donors, because there is no antigen. They can donate to anyone, whether it is an A, B or AB. There will be no clotting happen. Actually, if the mismatch occurs, what will happen? If presence of RBC is there, they will have extreme clotting in the body, and the person will die. So the blood mismatch should not be done. So O group will have both antibodies for A as well as the B. The most important thing is O blood group person cannot have the blood transfused even at times of energy from all these 3 groups, either from A, B or AB. From no one they can have the blood, but AB person can have from all the 4. A B person can have from B, AB and B person can have from B as well as from 1. A person can have from A and O. The next question is 29. What is the correct for blood group O? So based on previous slide, O will have no antigen but will have both A and both B antibody. Next question is 30th. In erythroblastosis fetalis, what will happen? The mother will have RH positive negative will be in mother, and RH positive for the child. One more thing to be noted: what is the clinical importance of erythroblastosis fetalis or the mismatching blood is the first child or the first pregnancy alone will be successful in these people, in these couples. because from the during delivery, even it is normal, the child's blood will somehow contact the mother's blood. So what will happen? The antibodies for the Rh antigen will be produced in mother, and that will attack the second forming baby. The embryo itself, the zygote stage itself will be started to attack, and the child will die if formed during the second pregnancy. The child will die usually. So how will Rh negative mother can have a Rh positive child is that if the father is actually Rh positive, and the child after the baby inside is the blood formed is also Rh positive, then there will be the incompetence.